So Dricus du Plessis, as we all know, he stated that he would much rather have his next title defense be against Khamzat Chimaev as opposed to Sean Strickland, and we all know why. Because Sean had a boring fight with Paulo Costa, who sucks, and decided to sit on his number one spot, refused to fight anyone else, ducked Robert Whittaker, whereas Khamzat, he took the Whittaker fight, and he beat Whittaker, who is elite and one of the best middleweights in the world, not a can and a fraud like Costa. But not only that, he finished him, folded him within a round, like I predicted, by the way. I predicted that Chimaev was going to win by sub in the first round, so pat on the back for myself for that. Not to toot my own horn, well, I am tooting my own horn. But not only does Dricus deny Sean of a rematch, but who let this man cook? Who let this man cook? I mean, he roasts Sean Strickland in this TMZ interview. He also kind of breaks down how he matches up with Khamzat, which I'll, go over both things in this video. But he filleted Sean Strickland in this video. Let's have a listen to what this guy had to say.
Yeah, listen, I completely welcome the Strickland rematch. I would have, loved that to, get that finish because, for Sean, he needs a win back. I need a finish. For him, he doesn't mind to fight boring fights like most of his fights. That's why he has, 7 or 8 split decision wins. For me, I go out there and I want to fight a guy that comes out there to throw down, not say that he's going to and then jab for 5 rounds.
Facts.
But
Sean all bark, no bite.
In our fight, myself and Sean, it was a close fight, but there was no doubt in my mind that I won that fight. But I said, if Whittaker comes out there and does something amazing, like get an early finish or, outfight Khamzat, he's definitely going to jump the gun because he deserves it. That's 3 wins in a row against top guys. And Strickland just beat Paulo Costa in a very boring fight once again. After our fight. Whether it was close or not, it's still a loss. And then, of course, I also thought, Khamzat, they've hyped up this guy for so long, but he's not come to fruition. He hasn't lost, but with the fight cancellations, him being sick, and sometimes that's out of our control. But he went in there, was the first guy to ever submit Rob, and he did in the first round. And that warrants a jump the gun on Sean Strickland for me. And if you ask me personally, that's a fight I would rather want. Because it's a fight that people want, it's a fight that more fans want, and I believe Khamzat is the next best guy.
Well said. Well said. I think Dricus, he knows the game well. He understands the business, and he knows that the UFC, they're always going to be invested in contenders who are not always the most highest ranked, although, Chimaev is ranked top 3. If they had to choose between, who's ranked number 1 or who's the more exciting fighter, they're going to go with who's the more exciting fighter. They're going to go with who had the better performance, who looked more impressive. I mean, just look at, for example, 2021. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Remember when Alexander Rakic and Yuri Prochazka both were in the race to see who gets the title shot? Remember when the UFC picked Yuri over Rakic, and they made Rakic have to fight Blachowicz, which was the start of Rakic's downfall? And you know why they went with Yuri? Because Yuri, when he had his fight with Reyes, he knocked him out in the second round with a spinning back elbow. No one's put Reyes out cold before. Not even Jan did, who was the champ at the time. I know Span did after, but doesn't matter. Whereas, Rakic took a washed Thiago to a boring, razor-thin decision. So, and then also Rakic said, I'm not going to fight Yuri in a title eliminator. So the UFC's like, all right, go fight Jan, the former champion. We're going to give Yuri this title shot. That's what the UFC does. Corey Anderson was boring for a little bit back in the day before he knocked out Walker. And could have made his claim, but then took the Jan fight instead of waiting for John Jones. But, Thiago Santos before the knee injury was exciting, knocking guys out. Anthony Smith before becoming who he is today was exciting and was knocking guys out. So the UFC, they're always going to go with exciting finishers, and they're always going to go with guys who are going to say yes to whoever you put in front of them whenever. Robert Whittaker said, give me Khamzat Chimaev. And the UFC said, okay, we're going to give you Khamzat. The risk didn't pay off, but guess what? Khamzat went out there and he destroyed Whittaker. Finished him within 1 round, which again, I called that on the money. I said exactly how that fight would play out. You can check out my prediction video. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But I mean, man, this guy, not only is he speaking facts, saying why Khamzat earned the title shot over Sean, because Sean was being an entitled little bitch and, you know, declined Whittaker and had a boring-ass performance against Costa, and his only real exciting fight in a while was that one win over Israel Adesanya, where he got the worst Israel Adesanya we've ever seen in years. I mean, bro, he filleted the hell out of Sean Strickland when he said Sean is boring, and he'd rather not fight someone who says we're going to go to war, but then just jabs and teeps for 5 rounds and pitter-patters and plays it safe and doesn't really turn up until, like, the last seconds of, like, the 5th round. Like, I agree with Dricus here. Sean is boring, and I'm glad Dricus called out Sean for being a boring fighter, and he's basically saying, look, I beat you already. I'm down for a rematch because I would love to finish your ass, but you're boring. You're not what the fans want to see. You're not what the fans are invested in. That's true. That's what he's basically saying. The fans do not give a fuck about watching you fight. And the fans don't really... I mean, the rematch is interesting because, you know, Sean is the only guy to, other than Tavares, to survive Dricus, and he was 1 scorecard away from beating him. When you have Khamzat do what he did to Whittaker, fans would rather see an undefeated killer who's exciting and finishes fights fight Dricus as opposed to a boring jab and teep merchant who always says, we're gonna go to the death for you guys, but then never actually goes to the death and just fights to not lose, which is why he lost his belt to Dricus du Plessis. But yeah, dude, honestly, I used to kind of hate Dricus, but Dricus is based. He's honestly based, and his trash-talking game is extremely underrated. Like, he's one of the best trash talkers in the UFC, and he doesn't even try. Like, Dricus just lays out facts, and it just makes grown men cry. It's insane. Even made my guy Izzy cried. I mean, he wasn't speaking facts about the whole servant thing, but we're not going to get into that in this video. Forget that topic. Scratch that, okay? But now, let's move on to what he said about how he matches up with Khamzat Chimaev. I think it's around this timestamp. And I'll just give my response and give my analysis of the fight.
In a stylistic form, you see Khamzat, he backs people up. I don't back up. And Khamzat being strong, and that's what I said with Whittaker after fighting him. His power wasn't something that I noticed when we fought, but when Khamzat fights, you can see he is strong against his opponents. But then you look at a guy like Gilbert Burns, you look at a guy like Kamaru Usman in a lighter weight division that went out there and they fought him. They didn't defend his wrestling. They wrestled him back. They fought him, and that's, you know, when I fight, I don't know how to, you know, back up. I'm going to go out there and fight you. And we've seen this with Khamzat, you know, slowing down after the first round, round and a half. And I think that is because he uses so much power. He has the wrestling technique, of course, but he uses his strength as a weapon. And in this case, he has a gun and I have a tank when it comes to the strength. There's not a middleweight that's going to overpower me. It's not going to happen.
I don't know about that.
And then we've seen myself going out there, doing that as hard as I can for 4 rounds, finishing easy, and then, of course, for 5 rounds with Strickland. With Khamzat, we haven't seen that. And we've seen him fading in fights. So stylistically, I think, especially the opening rounds, the first 2 rounds, it's going to be fireworks. I think it's going to be two absolute warriors in there, 2 bulls, and seeing who backs down first. But once it goes past round 2, if it goes past round 2, it's going to be a smooth sailing.
Okay, I mean, personally, I don't agree with Dricus du Plessis' analysis of the fight. I mean, he's not wrong in the sense that after round 1, that's usually your best chance to beat Khamzat, because history shows against high-level opponents who he can't finish early, like Prime Burns, Usman on like 11 days' notice. Like, history shows he will kind of fade, and we saw Burns pick up success in 2 and 3, and kind of in the first round as well. Kamaru Usman started picking up success and rallying in round 2, but wasn't active enough, and I guess that's why he lost the second round, I guess, on 2 cards. Maybe on all 3, but then he handily wins round 3, you know? He bangs Chimaev's ass up. Didn't bang Chimaev, I didn't mean that. So he's right in that sense. And that is Dricus' best chance to win. But let's not forget, Chimaev actually did win the 3rd round against Gilbert Burns. Burns slowed down first, okay? And I rewatched that Usman fight a few weeks ago in preparation for the Whittaker fight. Khamzat wasn't that tired in 2 and 3. He slowed down a little bit, but you gotta remember, Chimaev had a broken hand. That's why he barely did anything. And he was still taking down Usman in those rounds that he was allegedly losing. Not allegedly, he did lose the 3rd round, like, objectively. Round 2, you could argue for Khamzat. But I still think, even though DDP would have a chance past round 1 and 2, I'm not going to discount Khamzat's chances of still winning. I still think Khamzat could be a threat. If he manages his cardio and pacing and improves it somehow, he could potentially wrestle Dricus to a decision. And I don't agree with Dricus when he says that Khamzat has a gun and he has a tank. Not true. I do not think he's physically stronger than Khamzat Chimaev. Okay, Khamzat overpowered Usman inside in the 1st round. Okay, round 1, Khamzat is unstoppable, and I don't think Dricus is that far ahead of Usman when it comes to physicality and strength. I think they're even in that department. They're very even. Maybe Dricus is a bit bigger. I don't think he's that much stronger than Usman, and Usman got owned in that 1st round by Khamzat, taken down with ease and handily controlled on the ground. We've seen Derek Brunson get down Dricus, ragdoll him in the grappling in round 1. Dricus tried a lateral drop against Tavares, ended up on his back. Darren Till took him down. Like, come on. You are getting taken down by Khamzat, and you're going to get dominated in the 1st round. It's just on you if you can weather the early storm, which maybe he could. That's what makes it interesting. Dricus has the jiu-jitsu. He might be able to survive. He might be able to weather the early storm in ways Whittaker couldn't. And if it goes into the late rounds, Dricus could be dangerous, but I don't know. Dricus can slow down too. I mean, I could see both guys kind of fading after the 1st round. Now, Dricus has shown he can push through fatigue, but... And Khamzat does he didn't push through fatigue against Usman, but that's because he had the broken hand. But against Burns, a tired Khamzat was still pushing a pace when he had 2 healthy hands. And as far as Dricus not backing up, I don't agree because Dricus did kind of take a back step against Sean Strickland in moments, and even against Adesanya in round 2 and 3, he was doing a whole lot of backing up against Israel Adesanya, especially round 2 where he was tired. I mean, he did end up getting takedowns to slow down Izzy's momentum, but still, man, he was taking a back step. And I do think that Khamzat will control the center of the octagon at some moments in the fight. And if he does get Dricus against the cage, he is taking him down. And I can just perfectly see him getting the back. I can perfectly visualize him getting to the back. And I'll not be shocked if he gets another 1st round face crank sub against Dricus du Plessis. Honestly, I feel like Dricus is going to be another Khamzat victim. I just feel like it's inevitable that Khamzat's going to be the champion. I just don't see Dricus being a dominant champion. If anyone's beating him right now, it's Khamzat. And also, let's just put out one stat. Everyone who beats Israel Adesanya loses their next fight. Jan beat Izzy, lost the belt to Glover. Poatan, Alex Pereira beat Izzy, lost to Izzy in the rematch immediately after. Strickland beat Izzy, loses his belt to Dricus du Plessis. Dricus beat Izzy. I mean, he could, first time for everything, he could break that curse. But I just feel like with him fighting Khamzat after beating Izzy, it just makes too much sense. It makes too much sense for Khamzat to not beat him, you know what I mean? So, I don't want to say for sure Chimaev wins. It's not guaranteed, but I just hope that the UFC goes with Khamzat Chimaev over Strickland. Khamzat made his claim, but if they do go with Sean Strickland, it doesn't matter. I do think that Khamzat's just going to sit out and get the winner anyway. But yeah, I mean, Dricus du Plessis definitely was on the money with what he said about Strickland and why He's less deserving. I don't fully agree with him on his analysis about Khamzat. He's right about the cardio thing, not right about the strength thing. Um, and I mean, I could still see ways for Khamzat even if it does go a little bit later. But of course, it will increase Dricus' odds. But I cannot wait for this fight whenever it happens. And yo, if the champ calls the shots, I mean, the UFC should be like, all right, Dricus is the champ. He says who he wants to fight. Let's give the champ who he wants. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with DDP on his analysis of the Khamzat fight? And would you guys rather see a Sean Strickland rematch or a Khamzat fight? Let me know what you guys. Oh, I already said that. Like and subscribe, turn the notification bell, and peace out.